All right, hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Hala Pablo. Want to do a little Bitcoin update and kind of explain where we are right now. First thing, let me kind of explain this setup that I have on this screen here. I have three different charts. This is all Bitcoin, but in different formats. So on the top one here, I have it on the micro, or rather, I'm sorry, the macro on the 3 day, and this gives me the superstructure of what we're trending in currently, as far as like the geometric structure. So we see we have like a rising wedge on the macro that goes all the way back to like 2017. We could clearly see the waves on each, the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4, heading up to the mid-range of this wedge. And then here running through waves 1, 2, 3, and 4. Through 1 and 4, we have the wolf wave, and this is a projection of the 5 wave. If and when it retraces, we can reasonably expect it to come back down and retest this line here, this wolf wave, which it does. And I can show you with so many other historical charts on rising macro wedges like this, and both micro comes down on the wolf wave. The wolf wave, of course, is fractal, so it shows up on any format. And then, of course, the volume. Now, on the second one, I have the micro. So these are fractal ranges here. And this whole area here is basically where we are here, where this pulsating green dot is. And this is just under the microscope of where we are. And this is where I set my profit targets for swings and things like that. And it also has its volume metrics on this chart as well with the Fibonacci extensions. So this is current Bitcoin. I have the trend lines drawn out along with the trading range support and resistances. And so this is running simultaneously with this one. And then on the third and final one, we have the Renko brick chart. And this is on the 45-minute. And I do this for trend. This is like overall trend without any market noise, anything superfluous that the markets throw at you. Renko brick, I find, are very accurate, and they're safe for the most part. They resemble Heikin-Ashi candles, but they're even more streamlined. And then, of course, I have the Weiss wave volume that is corresponding to the Renko bricks here. So this is Weiss wave volume charts here on the bottom. So, all right. Well, first we have the superstructure here, which we already talked about. This is Bitcoin. So we see we're approaching this midpoint area here. We can reasonably assume that this is going to go all the way up and touch it the same way it did here. Oh, let me get rid of this. Here, here, here. And so we can assume it can come up here. Whether it goes all the way up to this macro trend resistance line, it could. That's going to bring Bitcoin all the way up to past 100,000 mark. But something more realistic before we see a pullback down to this area here could be a top out around this area, which would be around the 80,000 mark. So Bitcoin around 80,000, and this is going to be a crucial juncture here. If it prevails through this 80,000 mid-range for this wedge, then we may very well go all the way back up to the macro resistance area somewhere around here. But I think we're more inclined to pull back, and it's going to be like the counter trend area here on the macro, maybe come back to here, and then go up for the 5. And then after the 5, we're going to be ripe for that. But that won't be until like maybe 2000, like 2027 or like later. We could see a massive dump for Bitcoin all the way back down to the to the wolf wave here, and mitigate it. This whole area, this is the $16,000 to $20,000 area, which I know people laugh about it. Bitcoin can't possibly come back down. Well, that's what they thought here, and that's what they thought here. This area here, I remember I was trading this area. I traded these tops. I remember when Bitcoin was this high, as many of you do, and you think it's just going to keep going and going and going, let alone come back down to midpoint, let alone come down to the macro trend support line. So if we come all the way up here to this area within this macro wedge, it doesn't mean that it's up and away from here up to the $1 million point or whatever people are talking about. It could very well dump and retrace all the way back down, not only to the macro trend support line of this wedge, but even through it and all the way back down to the prior low of we see 2023 and which was also in 2018. So we had 2018, 2021, 2023, and then we can have a terminal shakeout in around, the year 2027 or 2028. Yeah, Bitcoin could come all the way back, especially if we have a black swan event. So don't discount anything with these cryptos, and that's why I like to keep the superstructure up so we can always track it. And this is on the logarithmic chart here. It's kind of like the Bitcoin rainbow chart in a way, so that's what it sort of resembles. Now here is the micro of where we currently sit at roughly 67,800, and we have this little micro trend here with the volume spread analysis arrows drawn out. Now we see this decreasing supply here as this range consolidated laterally, right? And we saw the falling supply. Yeah, that was indicative of a markup, which it did, marked up. And this was a legitimate markup because we had building supply after that. But now we're starting to consolidate again. We're starting to consolidate laterally, and again, we're seeing decreasing supply. So that could be that could be a signal for another markup. And if it does mark up, well, then the Fibonacci ratios, I have the 1618 at around 72,000. So if we go through the all-time high of 68, whatever it was, 68,000. Then we could keep going all the way to the 1.618 to the 72,000. If we go through the 72, then we can go back up to if we retest there and put another leg up, then that could bring us up to the 80,000 mark, which is where we looked at just now with that macro wedge. So yeah, and that could be a very, very important area, resistance area, and from there we might see the markdown. And I mean, goodness knows we're, it's high time for a markdown, especially if we make it all the way up to 80,000. There's got to be a point where the market makers are going to just sell off macro. It's going to be a big bleed out. It's going to be a big profit taking, and it could bring it all the way back down to the 30s or to the 40s. Before we get in preparation for the 5 wave all the way up from there. I don't think we may not come all the way back down to the 20,000 area, but we might. So I mean, this has been just surprising. Everything has been surprising so far. This is just unprecedented. Everyone's TA is just blowing out the window. Bitcoin is just doing crazy stuff right now. I didn't think we'd go this high. If you followed my videos, I thought we would have a sell-off around 63. I'm sorry, 53, and then come back down, and that would be the blow-off top of the macro counter trend, and we'd come down to retest the lows in the 20,000, 25,000 or something like that. But lo and behold, we blew through that. We're up in the 60s. We're pushing 70. And then we're pushing, we made an all-time high, and it's looking like we could break that as well. And if we go to the Renko, down here in the Renko, we see this was the pullback that we just had just now, and it was only like a 12%, right? Like the macro pullbacks, you'll know because it's 50 to 70% when it retraces on the macro. We haven't seen that yet. We found good support here, and not only that, we have a green dot which comes after 2 solid Renko bricks, and that basically is a green light for another rally that's fixing to happen. And so, yeah, we kind of saw all this corresponds. And then the Weiss wave, very, very, very low supply on this last pullback. In fact, you could hardly even see the supply that came in here I mean, you can't even see that. Not only supply, but demand is low, low supply, low demand. But then as we look at the decreasing supply with low demand on the consolidation this high up, then yeah, it means that we're gonna at least make another attempt at the all-time high. So, and if we break that area, then like we said, we can go up to the 1618 to 72,000. If we retest this 68,000 and you see big demand coming in, and it prevails through it, then that would be, if you're inclined to do like a momentum drive, that could net you about 5%, I think. Up to the here, let me see, up to the 618 would be, because that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to take advantage of this, especially if it goes up to 80%. So that's like 6.12% up to the 618 where we currently are. That's to the 618, to the 2.272 fib extension. We're talking about a solid 10%, and that brings us up to 75.2. And then if we make it up that high, we might just go all the way to the macro range midpoint, which, like we said, is 80 grand. So another 20%. We could go 15 to 20% Bitcoin has in it before we're really in the danger zone again of an impending markdown. So you want to be very careful if you're going to momentum it all the way up there, because the floor could fall out at any time, and it's not going to be a floor that's like this little 12% dip. I mean, we're talking it's going to be steep, it's going to be ferocious, and you're going to get trapped up there. So like I said, I'm playing this, but I'm being very, very careful, and so ought you if you're going to be doing this as well. But there's certainly money to be made, and I fully intend on taking advantage of this liquidity grab that's coming in the next few days or weeks or however long it takes. We don't know how long we're going to be consolidating here, although we're hitting this micro trend resistance line. And so we're going to see what the price is going to do. I think we're getting to a very, very crucial junction where it's either do or die. And so we may go back down. If we go back down, but it's not a steep drop, but say if we go back down to, say, trading range support here, the 67,000, then I'm going to really be watching, because if we break through and come back down to this old resistance point, and this would be 62.7, I would buy here aggressively. That's what I intend on doing. I shared it with my group because that is indicative of a spring or a sign of weakness. As long as supply keeps decreasing during this trading range, what you want to do is take advantage of these dips and buy these dips, because it's not financial advice. Again, this is what I'm doing, because most likely this is going to take another stab. And even if it gets rejected at the all-time high, if you ride it up from, say, 62,000, well, then that in itself, let's say you just want to exit, and you don't want to take the risk of getting dumped on. If it drives back up, that's like 8%, 8.9%. And then up here, this is 10.23. If you take it up to the all-time high, I would just get out, put a limit sell, maybe a couple points beneath it just to be safe. But more often than not, you're going to get wicked out way up here, cashed out. And yeah, depending on how much you put in, I mean, that's 8%. So yeah, remains to be seen. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go on this. 14 minutes. That's just what I have right now. I hope this helped you. Like, subscribe if you like this sort of analysis. And yeah, I'll keep looking. We got Shiba Inu starting to kick off. Well, it's been kicked off. Shiba Inu is something that I want to look into and do more reports on, as well as Bonk. And there's a few others on my list. Ethereum, obviously. I got my Momentum Prospect, ApeCoin, Internet Computer, XYO, Zcash. Zcash is one I've been looking at too. Yeah, so see, guys, this is bullish on Zcash right here, man. See, it broke through. Not only did it break through the macro trend resistance, it's gone through trading range resistance as well. And it's established a new support line here. So, but if Bitcoin takes it up to like the all-time high and gets rejected, then probably Zcash is coming back down to into this range. So, all eyes on Bitcoin. So really, that's where I'm focusing on until we get in, in a safe area. Then, and Bitcoin shows us its hand, its poker hand. Then, usually we can kind of surmise where the altcoins are going to go. But Bitcoin is king, so that's where I focus most of my time and energy. So, all right, guys, let me let you go. Like, subscribe, and we'll talk again soon. All right, guys, strong hands, be safe, and yeah, happy trading. Okay, guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Adios.